Chapter 15. We've left Kat with Ryker. She's exhausted, and I hope she's going to be able to sleep a little. The rest of us are in my office, crammed into a room too small for this many people. When I first moved in here, I found a whole stack of files waiting for me. Most of them were about important people in the town, a summary of their strengths and weaknesses, along with any other information that might come in handy. I never found out whether Mystery Man created them himself or got them from someone else. But they sure came in handy several times. It saved me time and effort. Now, we've each got a pile of files in front of us, hunting for a woman who's working with the pack. I've never looked at all the folders, but I know there are several documents about pack members. I've mostly ignored them, not wanting to revisit the past. If you go against one member of the pack, chances are that you'll have to fight them all, and until now, I've always wanted to avoid that. Not anymore. Women are very much underrepresented in the criminal underworld, Bethany observes after leafing through half her stack. Not at Meow. We're an equal opportunities business. I quip. Equal deaths for all. But she's right. Most of the files I've looked at are about men. At least that makes it a lot quicker. Kat, do you remember the deer shifter? Lennox suddenly asks. I look up from my current folder. Deer shifter? He nods. Must have been shortly before you arrived at the pack. She was a couple of years older than me. No idea where they found her, but they brought her to the headquarters and put a collar on her. First deer shifter they'd ever seen, I think, judging from how excited everyone was. She stayed in our dorm for one night, while they were waiting for some special scientists to arrive. Didn't say a word, totally frightened. We never saw her again. But I remember when they came to collect her in the morning. There was a woman there, one I'd not seen before. She was tall, taller than most of the men with her, and she was wearing a white lab coat. I only remember her because she was the biggest woman I'd ever seen, and I was wondering what kind of animal she was. He grimaces. That was before I learned that not everyone has an animal inside of them. You actually thought that? Bethany asks, quirking an eyebrow. Lennox shrugs. I grew up with wolves, and then with the pack. I never knew any different. I only really entered human society when the pack sent me on my first jobs. The people looking after you at the pack, were they shifters too? Griffin asks. I forgot he was never part of it. No, I reply. Some of them, but very few. I think only a handful of the top pack members are shifters, and those weren't like the rest of us. They weren't living with the pack because they'd been taken from their families. They'd joined as adults, voluntarily, because they wanted power. They didn't need to wear collars, and they treated us like scum. Worse than some of the humans, for some reason. I think some of the leaders weren't completely human, Lennox adds. But I never found out what they were. A muscle twitches near the bottom of the largest of Griffin's scars, but he immediately manages to hide his reaction. Interesting. Maybe he thinks they might have been the same species as him. Do you remember how old the woman was back then? I ask Lennox. That would give us a hint on how old she is now. Just because Kat calls her grandma doesn't mean that she's in her 60s or 70s. It could just be a title, or a joke even. No, she was quite old, Lennox says, his eyes unfocused as he tries to remember. I was young back then, so everyone seemed older than they were, but I'd guess she was in her 50s or older. I remember she had some gray hairs framing her face, but not all of it was gray. The rest was brown, I think. Light brown. By now she'd be all gray, Bethany says. She playfully twirls one of her own strands of hair in her fingers. Or white. I think brunettes usually turn more white than gray. All right, we're looking for a very large woman with white hair. I summarize, who may be a scientist or researcher. I don't think I ever saw someone like that when I was at the pack, so I assume she isn't local. I'll ask Ryker if any of his cats have seen her out and about, but I doubt she'll be walking around town a lot. Not if she's that recognizable and important. Lennox sighs. I don't think there's any way around storming the pack headquarters. The girl remembered handing the kittens to that doctor woman, and the streets she's described sound like they're near the headquarters. There must be a building that we don't know about, or maybe a hidden basement, something like that. When they did experiments on me, they always blindfolded me, I say, only remembering it when I say the words. They didn't want me to see where they were taking me. I shudder at the memory. I've tried to repress all that's happened at the pack, but somehow my walls are crumbling with every day that passes. I think it's got something to do with being surrounded by people who are trying to get past my barriers. Lennox, in particular. He's dangerous, and I've let him in far too deep. There's no repairing some of the damage he's wrought inside of me. We're not enough people, Bethany says, voicing my thoughts. We can't just walk into the pack headquarters, nor can we fight our way in and out. It's a suicide mission. Are we really going to do that for a bunch of kittens? I growl before I can stop myself. Beth lifts her hand in apology, and my panther calms down. But you get what I mean, right? She continues. We don't have a chance in hell of making it out of there alive. If we had more information, we might be able to sneak in and somehow get the kittens, but we don't even know where they are, let alone why they were taken. We'd be going in blind, and I don't think that's a good idea. Cut. A word. Griffin's voice is serious. So serious, in fact, that I immediately follow him outside the room. He walks all the way down the hallway until we reach one of the spare guest rooms. Not that we ever have guests. Just about far enough that Lennox won't be able to hear us. Clever. He closes the door behind us and sits on the corner of a dust-covered bed. I need to tell you something, he says quietly, not meeting my eyes. I sigh. Please tell me this is important. It is. Trust me. Sit down, will you? Curious, I take a seat next to him. His heartbeat is picking up, and he's starting to sweat. What is he about to tell me? It has to be bad if he's getting this nervous. I've never seen Griffin this nervous. Never. I know a few things about the pack that might help us. He begins. But you need to promise me that you won't tell the others how you know. None of them. Nobody. Ever. He looks up and locks eyes with me. His gaze is intense, pleading with me. At the same time, there's a threat hidden in their green, promising revenge should I go back on my promise. All right, I promise. I say, feeling like this is an important moment somehow. When we first met, you asked me what I was. He mutters, now looking back at the floor. He seems very uncomfortable. I did, and you've refused to tell me every single time I've asked. Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. In retrospective, it may not even have mattered, but I wanted you to trust me, needed you to trust me, which is why I stayed quiet. I sigh impatiently. Out with it. What are you? Why would it make me distrust you? He echoes my sigh. You promise? I swear it on my life. I'm a siren. All right. I was not expecting that. A what? A siren. Please tell me you've heard of us. I shake my head. The only sirens I know of are mermaids, and you don't really look like that. No tail, no scales, No scallop shells on your boobs. Definitely not a mermaid. My eyes linger on his chest, where his boobs would be if he had any. Instead, there's only hard muscle that presses against his tight shirt. He laughs softly, but it's not a happy sound at all. We're not mermaids. We often get confused with them, but we don't live in water. Only close to it, sometimes. But what do you do? I ask in confusion. What can sirens do? We control people mostly. That's our skill and our curse. We can influence human minds, steer them in directions they wouldn't usually venture. We can make a person fall in love with us, or make them kill themselves. If we tell someone to give us all their money, they will do so with a smile. We're manipulators, Cat. We control whoever we want to control, even shifters. I jump up and fight against my panther, who's trying to claw her way out of my body. She senses the fear that's running through me. He holds up his hands with a smile so full of sadness that my fear instantly reduces. Not you. Not any of you. I've renounced my family's ways. They revel in the power they have over others, while it's always scared me. I see it as a great responsibility. They see it as their right. Shifters, I mutter. The callers? That's the siren's doing. He nods, anguish drawn across his face. We can't influence shifters as easily as humans, so we had to find a way to amplify our power. No, not we. They. I was a part of it, yes, but only until I was old enough to realize what they were doing. I left as soon as I had a chance. Which is why you're not a doctor. I mutter, randomly remembering that fact. Yes, exactly. I didn't just leave the university before graduating, but I also left my family. I came to this town instead, hoping to escape their rule. But as soon as I arrived here, I realized that there's another siren clan controlling the city. The pack, I whisper. He nods grimly. Linux was right when he said that the pack's leader aren't human. They're sirens, like me. And they've done the same thing here that my family did in the city I grew up in. Seems to be the curse of the sirens. Taking control, becoming the slavers of humans and shifters. We stay in the shadows. We pull the strings. But even though nobody knows it, it's us who are in charge. My head hurts. He's deceived us. Lied to us. Lied to me. I was just about to trust him, and now I have no idea what to think. You're about to push me away, he says sadly. And that's your right. But first, let me help. I glare at him. Cat's collar. You could have opened it. Instead, you let her suffer. She almost killed Benjamin because of it. How could you? I have a knife in my hands before he can even react. Anger flows through me, white burning rage that makes me want to stab him over and over again. No, you misunderstand. He protests. I don't know how exactly the collars work. We didn't have collars where I'm from. They used implants that were inserted close to the shifters' hearts. I know what the collars do, how they bundle our powers, but not how exactly they function. With a bit of time, I could probably figure it out, but I could have hurt the little girl by doing so. Waiting for Lennox and the key was the safer option. I don't want to hear his reasoning. I thought I could trust him. I almost let him in. Almost thought he could be my friend. In dreams, even more than a friend. I got it wrong. So, I stab him. Chapter 16. All right, so I try to stab him, but he's faster. If I'd really wanted to hurt him, I would have, but I let him deflect my attack. The blade grazes the skin on his forearm, drawing blood. It's just a scratch, though. I deserve that, he mutters. I nod. You do, and more. He hangs his head, visibly ashamed of himself. That's a good start, at least. Stabbing him has made my anger evaporate. How can you help us? I ask, and he looks up at me in surprise. Didn't you just tell me to leave? I shrug. For now, you may be of use to us. If the people in charge are also sirens, we have an advantage if we have you on our side. Do they know you're in town? He nods. Yes, but I doubt they see me as a threat. None of them have approached me. Maybe they think I'm on holiday here. They know that if I was here in an official capacity, as a representative of my family, I would have contacted them. I need to know more about sirens. How do I recognize them? What are your weaknesses? Can they exert control over me without a collar? And what about Benjamin and Bethany? They're human. Will it be safe for them to be there with us, or could they be turned against us? We look human, although the chances are that we're prettier than most of them. Unless you're mauled by a bear. He points at the 3 long scars on his face. We don't heal as fast as shifters, so we scar quite easily. Physically, we're weak, and many of my kind don't see a reason why they should learn how to defend themselves when they can simply tell their enemies to leave them alone. I'm an exception, but I've always hated having those powers, so there won't be many who can deflect a blade in the way I just did. It was a pretty good move, I admit. It's unlikely that many of the sirens in the pack can defend themselves properly, but as you rightly said, the 2 humans will be easily susceptible. I don't think it's a good idea to take them with us. There are ways to train your mind to withstand a siren's call, but we don't have time for that. So it's just Lennox, Ryker, you and me. The cat is coming too. I shrug. He's always been of help, and he has a network of cats all across the city who might be able to give us information. Not that I can actually talk to him right now, but still, better to have him along. The kittens might be scared and confused when we find them. Okay, so it's the 4 of us. Not the best odds, considering we're trying to not only break into their headquarters, but also leave with a bunch of kittens. It's what we have to do. Yeah, I get that. And trust me, I don't want anyone to suffer at the hands of my people. We've done enough damage already. The sadness in his expression makes me lose all my remaining anger. He seems to be a victim of his upbringing. That he chose to leave is a sign that not all hope may be lost. Yes, he deceived me, but I do that a lot too. I frown. When did I become so tolerant? So nice? The old cat would have probably killed him by now. Instead, I'm considering letting him stay once we've completed our mission. You asked whether they could affect you without a collar, he says hesitantly. Normally, we have barely any power over shifters. But because you've worn a collar for most of your life, you may be more susceptible. The only way to find out is if you let me try it on you. You want to enchant me? He laughs humorlessly. I guess you could call it that. It won't hurt. You won't even know that it's not your own free will. That's scary. He nods. But would knowing that you're being forced to do something be better? At least this way, you're happy, and without the knowledge that there are enemies all around you. I scoff. Yes, it would be better. It would give me a reason to fight, not simply follow orders without realizing how I'm actually a slave. At least with the collars, it was obvious. Hard not to notice that you're someone else's possession if you're wearing a collar around your neck. His expression turns even more pained. I'm sorry for what my people did to you. It's wrong, and I'm going to do my best to make it right. I didn't have any allies in my own city, so I was never able to change things. Here, I'm not alone. We can do this. We can break their hold on shifters and set them free. Maybe not immediately, but we can work against them, weaken them, until we're ready to take off everyone's collar and make them rebel against their masters. Did you know there are some shifters who like wearing a collar? I ask him, and he looks genuinely surprised. Why would they like it? It gives them a sense of purpose, being part of something. Some see the pack as their family. They may not be there voluntarily, but they get used to it and even grow to like their lives. Stockholm Syndrome, I suppose. A kitten meows in the room upstairs, and I remind myself that we better hurry up. We don't know why the pack want the kittens, and they could be in danger. Or dead already. Try it, I say, meeting his eyes. Do your siren thing. All right. I'm going to make you do something that you wouldn't otherwise do. That way we know how well my powers work on you. Just don't make me kill someone important. I warn him, and he laughs. You like killing. That wouldn't prove anything. No, I think I've got an idea. It works better if we're touching. Griffin says, Hold my hand. I shake my head. No, I doubt the pack sirens are going to get a chance to touch me. I need to know if they can do it without physical touch. Although, he holds out a hand and I look at it. Maybe I should do it after all, just to see what it feels like. I reach out and entwine my fingers with his. His skin is warm, his palms calloused from fighting, just like my own. We're so similar, made for each other. Lennox is my opposite, a canine. It was a mistake to even think I could be with him. Dogs and cats can't be together. But Griffin, he's an assassin. He's clever. He's got a great sense of humor. He looks amazing. He's perfect. I step closer and put a hand on his chest. The muscles there are just as hard as I imagined. He must be ripped underneath that shirt. I want to see it, so I let go of his hand and start unbuttoning his shirt. He doesn't say anything, but a smile begins to form on his lips. He wants this too. It's clear from the heat in his eyes, the way his mouth parts slightly, the drumbeat of his heart. Undoing the buttons take too long. I rip open his shirt, exposing his bare chest. He's gorgeous. I run my hands over his pecs, admiring the taut strength beneath his skin. He's a killer, like me. I step even closer until my body almost touches his. He's so warm, so tempting. I want to lean against him and let go of my fears and concerns. Just a woman with a man, unraveling in each other's arms. But my conscience is too strong. We can't do this. Not now, anyway. We've got a job to do. Not now. I whisper hoarsely, and using every ounce of willpower I can muster, I step back. I meet his eyes, and even though we're no longer touching, the heat in his is increasing, drawing me in. I could look into those green eyes all day. They're a little too bright to be called emerald. A grassy meadow on a sunny day. That was strange. He mutters, and just like that, the spell is broken. Strange? You call it strange when a woman rips off your shirt? Do you need an instruction manual to figure out what that means? I cross my arms in front of my chest and glare at him. I thought he was feeling the same. No, I know he did, so why is he being weird? He sighs deeply. You didn't fight my siren power. You changed it, and then you simply removed it, not by struggling, but by finding a logical reason for why you couldn't accept it just now. That's never happened before. Wait, you... This time, he lets me stab him. Granted, I only nick his skin because I don't really want to hurt him, but I hope he gets the message. Don't mess with Cat, especially not with emotional stuff. He groans, but doesn't even move to press a hand against the cut on his upper arm. Blood seeps into his dark shirt, but not enough to be worrying. I forgot he doesn't heal as fast as me. Oh well, it's a just punishment. Hopefully, it will scar. That will teach him not to mess with my head. You misunderstand, he says, eyeing his wound. I didn't make you rip off my shirt. I glare at him. I certainly wouldn't have done that out of my own volition. Yes, you would have. Don't make me stab you again. I snap. I'm not that kind of woman. I don't undress random men. Random? He quirks an eyebrow. I thought we were getting to know each other. Yes, while you were lying to me. I scoff. I shouldn't have let you do that. Maybe I should cut off your dick. That will teach you. He cringes. I know you might not believe me, but not all men think with their cocks. I only used my power to make you hold my hand. I know you're not big on touching, so I thought that would be a good start. Then I was planning to have you take off your shirt. I growl, but he ignores me. But instead, you changed the command and took off mine. Do you see? While you didn't realize it was me telling you what to do, you instinctively changed the order to something similar, but less damaging. It must be your experience with wearing a collar. I assume you were good at looking for loopholes in your instructions. I nod. Very. That explains it. I was about to stop my powers when you managed to free yourself by deciding that this wasn't the time. Again, you instinctively knew how to get around it. If you'd simply tried to fight my command because you didn't want to do it, it wouldn't have worked, or at least it would have been very difficult. But by making it about the others, about our mission, you managed to break my influence without even knowing what you were doing. It's remarkable, really. Are you saying that I wanted to see you naked? I stutter, my mind swirling. He must be lying. His frown turns into a grin. Yup, and I can totally see why. He makes his pecs dance up and down. Okay, then. Now he's getting a little cocky, but stabbing him a third time might be over the top. I need him in good condition for our mission. The cats depend on me. The heat that has gathered in my lower body dissipates as I think of poor little Pumpkin. It's been a whole day now since he was taken. Anything could have happened during that time. He might be dead and dissected by now. Griffin sees my expression and turns serious. At least we know now that you can defend yourself against siren powers. Even though it's in rather unorthodox ways. I'm not sure about Lennox, though. He's been without a collar for 10 years. Surely that would make him less susceptible? Griffin nods, although he doesn't seem entirely convinced. Probably. He's strong, but I don't think he's as strong as you. I'll take that compliment because I know it's true. Lennox may have some pretty good skills, but by staying at the pack for 10 years longer than him, I got a lot more training than him. Remember, you promised me not to tell anyone. He reminds me as I turn towards the door. You can say that I've given you some helpful information, but no details. I don't want them to know just yet. You, I trust to do the right thing. What if I thought the right thing would be to tell them? I ask, even though I'm not intending to break my word. I honor my promises, always. Then I would beg you not to, he says quietly. I've had to fight what I am all my life, and finally, I am in a place where I can turn into the man I want to be. Please, don't take that away from me. My heart goes out to him. It was the same for me when I first left the pack. I'd been defined by them. They'd given me a role that had become my sole purpose. So, when I was suddenly on my own, I had to remake myself. I had to learn about who I was and what I liked. I'd never had the option to choose between different foods before. I wasn't sure if I preferred to sleep in single or double beds, which is how I ended up having a hammock. I didn't even know what size I wore because I'd always been provided my clothes. I'd felt so lost at the beginning, even though I'd never admit that. Right now, I see something of that cat in Griffin's eyes. I'm not going to tell them, I reply, fighting against the urge to reach out to him. No, I've done enough touching for now, if that had really been me. Yeah, who am I kidding? It had been me. And I'm regretting that Griffin is about to put on a new shirt and hide the gorgeous view he's currently giving me. Sacrifices have to be made, sadly. Chapter 17. I'm surprised when the others accept that I can't divulge what Griffin and I talked about. What Benjamin and Beth don't accept, however, is that I want to leave them behind. No way, Ben says vehemently, glaring at both Griffin and me. I can't stay here while kittens are in danger. There are kittens in this house right now, Benjamin, I remind him. If something happens to us, who's going to look after them? You need to stay here and make sure nobody takes the opportunity to attack our home while we're gone. That could be exactly what the pack are planning. Lure us out, then burn down our headquarters while we're not there to fight them off. He looks like he's about to protest, but Bethany puts a hand on his arm. She's right. And there's the girl to think about, too. Someone needs to look after her, and I'd rather that be the two of us than some of Ryker's cats. They wouldn't be able to deal with her should something happen. I was debating whether to take Clone Cat with us, since she might be able to show us where to go, but she's in no fit state to come. If someone put a collar on her, she'd turn into our enemy, and now that we've got to see the girl underneath the collar, I wouldn't be able to hurt her. She'd be the perfect weapon against us. Maybe that's been the pack's intention all along. Make us like the girl, then have her attack us. We looked through the remaining folders while you were gone, Lennox says, pointedly looking away from Griffin's exposed chest. He's not meeting my eyes either, but it's clear to see that he's unhappy with me. I can almost feel his wolf cry out to me. I'm amazed that he's been this calm around me at all. I'd always thought that wolves would go into a frenzy until their mate agreed to be with them, but for now, he seems to have himself under control. I hope it stays that way, because I'm not going to turn into his one true love anytime soon. I need more time to think about him and me and us, but right now, there are far more important things occupying my mind. We didn't find anyone matching the description of this grandma doctor, but we did find a scientist with close connections to the pack. In here, it says that he's no longer in town, but Bethany is sure that she's seen him before. My friend nods. You know the herb shop on Smithy Road? I swear I bumped into him there. Literally bumped, because he wasn't looking where he was going. It was maybe a week ago, so I bet he's still here. Maybe he never left and simply went underground. Lennox hands me the file, and I flick through it. There's not a lot of information, but there is an address and a photo. He's in his late 40s with a receding hairline and deep-set eyes. Dr. Alfie Lomond, I read, specializes in genetic engineering and selective breeding. Bethany snorts. As long as he's not doing any of the breeding. He's not my type, or any woman's type. Just look at those eyes. They're creepy. She's right about that. With his hollow cheeks and sharp nose, he doesn't look like a man who I'd invite over for tea. Not that I ever invite anyone ever, but that's not the point. I checked the date at the top of the file. It was compiled 5 years ago, which means he disappeared around the time my clone must have been created. Just a coincidence? I don't think so. All right, let's go to his address, I say, ripping out the page with his photo and details and stuffing it in my chest pocket. It's unlikely he still lives there, but it might give us some clues to his whereabouts. Definitely better than traipsing around the pack headquarters looking for a hidden building. They'd take us out before we ever got close to finding what we're searching for. We may be better at fighting, but they outnumber us something like 50-1, or even more. You know I'm confident in my skills, but not that confident. What we need is stealth and information. That's the only way this can work. I turned to Bethany. Lock down the house. You know our emergency protocols. Let's be prepared for the worst. Benjamin, it might be safer if you get some of the other cats to help you with looking after the kittens. Talk to Ryker. He'll send some of his friends. I'll ask them to patrol the area as well and warn you if anyone from the pack comes too close. Do you really think they're going to attack us? Bethany asks. They created a young girl and turned her into a weapon. Right now, I want us to be prepared for anything. I've not worked hard for the past 7 months to build us this home just for them to take it from me. She gives me a sharp nod, and I know that she'll follow the protocols we set at the very beginning. She's not going to underestimate the threat that's facing Meow. Even though I founded our company, they're more than just employees. They're part of it. They make it a home, a family. I'm almost glad that Lily is away on holiday. One person less to worry about. Wait a second. I'm worrying about other people. I'm actually scared that something might happen to them. When the fuck did that happen? When did I let them in? When did I let them become more than convenient accessories? Let's go and talk to Ryker, I say, before my mind can shock me even more. Or maybe it's my heart. I'm discovering that I actually have one. It's scary. The house Alfie Lomond used to live in is now occupied by a family. Their kids are noisily playing in a tiny garden, an even tinier dog running around their feet. Is that a toy or a dog? I shudder in disgust. Even a kitten has more self-respect than that jumping furball. I doubt we'll find anything interesting here, Griffin says with a sigh. Unless Ryker can smell something. The cat in question gives him a look that's full of testosterone-laden challenge and runs off towards the garden. Ever since Ryker saw Griffin's torn shirt, he's been glaring at the siren. Is there something going on between the two of them? Being surrounded by so many men is getting exhausting. Give me a bunch of bitchy girls over these I've got the bigger one guys any day. We wait in silence. A couple of Ryker's cats are following us covertly, but I could point to each one of them with my eyes closed. My panther senses are getting stronger again, but I don't think I'm ready to shift yet. If it's an absolute emergency, I might have to, but for now, I prefer to stay human. What if he doesn't find anything? Lennox asks quietly when the cat still hasn't returned. Do we just walk to their front gates? Luckily, we never have to figure that out. Ryker meows from afar, and we move towards him in a trot. He's 2 houses down from where the children are playing in the garden. Thank goodness, away from that tiny bark machine. I was close to eating that dog just to shut it up. Ryker is waiting for us in front of a shed. Not another one. What is it with us and sheds? I don't think I've ever been in one before, and now this is the second in as many days. Plus, Mr. Kindler had one too. Maybe I should get my own shed, just in case. Interesting things seem to happen inside of them. Ryker knocks his paw against the wooden door. Griffin steps forward and removes the rusty padlock with one sharp pull. Before he even opens the door, the stench of human waste fills my nose, and I gag. Has someone been using the shed as an outdoor toilet? Not what I was expecting at all. It's dark inside, but I let my eyes adjust and take in the scene. There's a man sitting on the moldy wooden ground in the center of the shed. He's naked, but he's so covered in dirt that it doesn't really matter. He's also missing one ear. Lovely. A torture victim, unless he's a Van Gogh impersonator. He keeps his eyes closed, but cocks his head at the sound of us entering his shed. The floor is caked in human waste, confirming that it's been indeed used as a toilet, except that I hadn't anticipated that a man is living inside the toilet. What a strange situation. He's thin, but not starved. Someone is keeping him alive. They're not taking good care of him, though, judging from the matted hair and his long, curved fingernails. "Who are you?" I ask, and the man turns his head towards me. He doesn't reply. Of course not. That would be far too easy. I sigh and pull one of my knives. "Tell me quickly. I'm not very patient right now. There are children in danger, so you better talk before I get angry." He doesn't open his eyes, but he does open his mouth. A gaping hole sits where his tongue once was. He won't be able to tell us anything. "Can you understand me, though?" I ask, and to my relief, he nods. Somehow, we're in the same situation as with the clone girl. While we managed to get her talking, I doubt there's anything we can do for this man. Cutting out a tongue is a pretty permanent solution to preventing someone from spilling secrets. "Do you know the pack?" I ask him. His eyes snap open, exposing bloodshot pupils that stare at me in shock. He slowly lifts a hand and makes a cutting motion in front of his throat. "You're scared they might kill you? Honestly, wouldn't that be better than how you currently live?" Ryker meows, but I don't think it's to agree with me. "Oh, shut up, kitty cat. I'm tired and impatient. I don't have time for this man to be scared." "You know the pack, then. We're looking for a man called Alfie Lomond. Do you know him?" I didn't think his eyes could go any wider, but they do. He looks to either side, as if he expects the pack to attack him, then focuses his gaze on me, examining me from top to bottom. Usually, I'd relieve men who do that from the burden of their balls, but he doesn't do it because I'm a woman. I think he just wants to get the measure of me, find out whether I'd be strong enough to not get killed. Finally, he nods, very slowly. I'm hiding my relief at the fact that we might have a lead to follow. "Is he still alive?" Again, the man nods. "Is he the one keeping you here?" A third nod. "Do you know where he is now?" This time, he shakes his head. Fuck. It was going so well. "All right. Do you know where he works? We know that there must be some kind of hidden lab or research facility that the pack run. Does that ring any bells?" His eyes almost pop out of his sockets. His nod is almost imperceptible, but he does seem to know what I'm talking about. "Someone's taken some friends of mine," I explain. "And there are things going on in that lab that we need to stop. If you show us the way, I'll make sure to keep you safe." He laughs, a horrible gurgling sound. "I don't think he wants to be safe," Lennox mutters from behind me. He steps forward to look at the man. "Do you want us to end your suffering?" The prisoner stares at Griffin for a long time. I can almost hear a conversation happening between them, but I'm sure I'm just imagining that. After what seems like forever, the man nods and carefully shuffles on his knees until we see his back. Thick red welts cover his skin, old marks from what must have been brutal whippings. They did that back to us at the pack, but we healed. This man didn't. His wrists are tied together. No wonder he's been soiling himself. And even if he'd wanted to, he wouldn't have been able to take his own life to escape the pain, not tied up like this. Griffin produces a knife out of nowhere and gently cuts through the rope. Even when his bonds fall to the ground, the man doesn't move his arms. The way his shoulder blades curve strangely, he must have some dislocated joints. Poor man. Griffin was right when he talked about ending the man's suffering. I step back and let him and Lennox help the guy up. He's barely able to walk, but he tries to, one stumbling step after another. When the first ray of sunshine falls onto his face, he grins a toothless, tongueless smile and closes his eyes. I wish we could leave him here to enjoy the sun one last time. Sadly, we need him to show us the lab, or we'll never find Pumpkin and the other kittens. Is it far? I ask him, almost regretting to disturb his moment of peace. He nods, and I can't help but sigh. One of the guys will carry you. Try to take us the quickest route possible, although we can't risk being spotted, so avoid any busy streets. Got that? I have a feeling like we're making a mistake here, but there's no other way. Chapter 18. I prick the man with a sleep dart before Griffin cuts his throat. Strategically, it would have made more sense to keep the man alive until we're sure this is the right place and that he hasn't led us into a trap, but his constant groaning is getting annoying. He's guided us to an office block a couple of streets away from the pack headquarters. We're hiding in an alleyway while Ryker and his cats check out the area. 2 security guards are guarding the entrance of the building that the man gestured to be the one we need to enter. One of them is human, but the other is an uncolored shifter. Curious. Usually, only a very select group of pack shifters are seen as trustworthy enough to be without a collar, and all of them are too important to be guarding a building. The sun is setting, and the shadows around us are growing. My favorite time of day. People are leaving their workplace, tired and eager to get home. They don't look at suspicious things they may have noticed in the morning when they were more alert. Now, they couldn't care less about what's happening around them. Soon, the streets will be empty, with only a few stragglers who worked late. In other parts of town, this is the time when the pubs get busy and the first drunks start to stagger around, but not here. This area is nothing but one office building next to another, utterly boring and depressing. While Lennox and Griffin deal with the man's corpse, I am crouched on the ground, my eyes closed, focusing on the scents and noises all around us. The people around us are all human, that security guard the only anomaly. Most of the humans smell exhausted. I wonder if I do, too. There's still a weight in my limbs that is keeping me from being at full strength. It shouldn't be hard to get into the building. All of us are good at climbing, and I'm sure we'll either find an open window or use the diamond saw I have stashed in my backpack. My instincts are telling me that we need to be careful, though. I doubt these 2 men outside are their only security measures. I'm having trouble sensing the inside of the building, even though I should be able to from this distance. They must be using coalstone, a synthetic material that blocks shifter powers to a certain extent. Back at the pack headquarters, they had some of the rooms clad in the stuff so that we couldn't hear what was going on inside, as well as the entire top floor where the leaders live. If they're using it here, that must mean that we're in the right place. They wouldn't bother using such an expensive material unless they had something to hide. Less and less people are leaving the building. Most have long disappeared down the street by now. They'll be sitting at their dinner tables soon, maybe watching TV, talking about work, about how exhausted they are, how much they're looking forward to the weekend. I don't think I've ever had an actual weekend. I don't take off more than a day at a time. There are always people that need killing, and it's easiest to find them off guard when they're at home, relaxing. I sense Ryker return and open my eyes, watching him sneak towards us. Nobody's taking a second look at the cat. He may be gorgeous and big for his kind, but he's still just a cat in their eyes. Ignorant humans. Cats are so much more advanced than them in some aspects, but, of course, they'd never accept that. The arrogance of cats is only beaten by that of humans. "Have you found a way in?" I ask Ryker as soon as he's arrived. He nods, then meows. There's worry in the sound, but I don't quite understand what he's trying to say. "Are you worried they might be expecting us?" I feel his assent even before he bows his head. "Well, they don't know what's coming for them." I say grimly. We're going to get the kittens and make sure that my clone is safe from them. I turn to Lennox. How do you feel about a little arson? He grins. Thought you'd never ask. His boyish enthusiasm makes me smile. He's always loved blowing things up. First, we need to find the kittens and get them out. Then we have to figure out what exactly they've been doing here. Take any interesting documents you come across. Once we're all done, we burn down the building. That should hopefully act as a blow against the pack, even though it's not their headquarters. That will be a project for another day. I resist the urge to rub my hands like an evil villain who's scheming to take down the government. The pack isn't quite in charge of the town, but they do pull enough strings to have more power than they should. Who knows how much they control? What if the kittens aren't here? Griffin asks. I want to throw something at him. Let's think positive. I retort, one step at a time. Ryker, can you get your cats to start some kind of fight outside the building? That should distract the guards for at least a short while. Lennox, you sneak around and prepare everything to start a big fire. Can it be an explosion? He asks with a cheeky glint in his eyes. I chuckle. Whatever you want. Drench the building in acid for all I care, as long as it's destroyed once we leave. Griffin, Ryker, you're with me. Together we should be able to sense the kittens, and if not, Griffin might be able to use his special skills to ask one of the employees where they're kept. The siren shoots me a warning glance, but he shouldn't worry. I'm not about to break my promise. His secret is safe with me. What signal are we using for me to start the fire? Lennox asks. Damn, I should have brought the walkie-talkies. I got them a while ago when I saw them at sale at a DIY shop, but never used them. I don't usually take people with me when I go on a job. I shrug. I could roar really loudly. By then it won't matter if people know that we're there. Griffin snorts and pulls a whistle from his coat pocket. Or we could use this, a little more sophisticated. Are you calling me unsophisticated? I quip, pretending to be offended. Griffin ignores me and turns to Lennox. Want some of my explosives? I brought some, just in case. They always come in handy one way or another. Boys and their toys. I let them exchange dynamite while mentally preparing myself for the assault of the building. I really hope we're in the right place, but the coalstone-coated walls are a good indication that there's something going on in there. Plus, the broken man was unlikely to deceive us. All he wanted was to be released from his existence of pain and misery. Poor guy. I wonder who he was. An ex-pack employee, perhaps? I might never find out. Ugh, I hate unsolved mysteries. Ryker meows impatiently, and I get up from my crouched position, stretching my limbs. Show us the way in, I tell him. Let's get your son back. Ryker has found a rusty ventilation shaft at the other end of the building, away from the guards, which means we don't have to use his cats as a distraction. Lennox rips off the shaft's cover, his muscles rippling beneath his shirt as he does so. I look away. No distractions. Since he's the largest of the four of us, he goes last, with me first, followed by Ryker, who's helped up onto the ledge by Griffin. I move slowly across the groaning metal, trying to make as little noise as I can. But since this shaft looks older than I am, that's pretty much impossible. Hopefully, most people will have left the building by now. Compared to me, Ryker is quiet as a ghost. Sometimes, being small comes in handy. There's a turn up ahead, but before I even get there, the groaning gets louder, and suddenly I'm falling. I land on all fours, thanking my cat instincts. I look up and stare at the massive hole in the ceiling. Oops. Guess that ventilation shaft wasn't made for people to crawl through. I dust off my clothes and wait until the others have climbed down. There are no sounds that would indicate people having noticed our arrival. I sniff the air. There's no coalstone anywhere around here, so we must be in one of the boring office parts of the building. I close my eyes to be able to focus better and extend my senses. There's a faint trace of coalstone beneath us, and more a few stories up, but a much smaller amount, probably just one room. Lennox, you go upstairs. There's a room there that might be of interest. Maybe check that one out before you go and lay your explosives. Ryker, Griffin, we're going to explore the basement. There's something down there that they don't want us to smell. That they don't want you to smell. Griffin corrects. I have no idea what you're even talking about. This is a human nose through and through. I raise an eyebrow at him, and he shuts up. Let's not pretend that he's human. That wouldn't be good for our currently slightly strained relationship. I'll be waiting for your signal, Lennox says, and jogs off without another word. Ryker, can you smell the kittens? I ask in the vague hope that his genetic connection to Pumpkin might give him an advantage. He shakes his head. All right then, basement it is. Let's be on our guard. With that stupid coalstone, I can't even sense if there are any people down there. I smirk at Ryker. I almost wish you were a normal cat. Maybe they're not affected by this like us shifters are. He glares at me, then runs towards the staircase at the end of the corridor. A green emergency exit sign is flickering above the double doors leading to it. Ryker waits there, probably unable to push the heavy fire doors open himself. It must be so embarrassing to be a tiny shifter surrounded by big shifters. Like me and Lennox. And I'm kind of counting Griffin too, because he's big, albeit not a shifter. Ryker is totally outpowered. I pretend not to notice that he had to wait for us, and open the doors wide enough for him to slip through by my side. The staircase is dirty and smells of dusty concrete. Still better than taking the lift. I hate elevators. They make me feel out of control. At the bottom of the stairs, a set of metal doors await us. I can't sense anything beyond those doors, and it drives me crazy. I'm not used to having to rely on my sight alone. Griffin draws a curved sword from the sheath on his back, and I do the same, tightly grabbing two of my favorite knives. I'm going to enjoy using them to cut up whoever hurt the kittens. Ready? I whisper and check on the two men. Griffin nods, and Ryker gives me a small meow. He extends his claws and arches his back, ready to battle. Let's keep at least one alive, I mutter. We need information about what they've done to my clone, and what else they've been doing. Once we have that, they're all fair game. I'm looking forward to it, Griffin growls. Surprised, I look at him. His expression is fierce, his eyes full of excitement. He loves a good fight as much as I do. Or is there more? Does he want revenge for a child and cats who he doesn't even know? If so, it's proof that he's so much more human than I thought. I remind myself that even if it's not his family running the pack, it's still his kind. He must feel responsible for this, at least in some part. Sometimes, the biggest threats to a tyranny don't come from the outside. They come from their own creations. I put my hands on the door handles and take a deep breath, getting in the zone. I'm still weaker than I usually am, but the adrenaline is helping in hiding that. I should be fine against normal pack members, and for once, I'm not alone. It's strange fighting alongside other people. Well, one person and one cat. With one more deep breath, I pull open the doors, exposing a long, boring, and very empty corridor. Well, that was a bit of an anticlimax. We're silent as we walk further into the basement. There are no doors leading off on either side, just shiny metal walls. I wonder where the coalstone is that is stopping me from properly using my senses. Behind the walls? Somehow mixed with the metal? I've only ever seen it used as a paste that's painted on walls, but this part of the pack seemed to have more advanced technology than what I'm used to. The clone's collar was one example. This might be another. At the end of the corridor, we have the choice of turning left and right. Griffin signals that he'll take the right passage, and I nod in confirmation. Ryker stays with me, and together, we turn left and hurry along yet another bland corridor. At the end of it are 3 doors. This time, we have to decide on one. Carefully, press my ear against the center door, but I can't hear a single thing. They don't just block my shifter senses, but my human ones too. Ryker sniffs the ground, and suddenly, his ears twitch and he grows tense. He points a paw towards the door on the right. He must smell something, but I don't. Nothing. Pumpkin? I mouth, and he nods. While I want to storm in right away, I take the time to pull several sleeping darts from my collar and deposit them between my fingers, ready to throw. It's quicker than fighting my way through several people while trying not to hurt them too badly. As much as I want to kill them all, the rational part of my brain keeps reminding me that we need information more than revenge. With my darts in one hand and a knife in the other, I slowly pull open the door. 3 men in lab coats are standing around tables. Another one is sitting at a desk. All of them are turned away from me. Perfect. Someone else is moving behind a set of shelves that act as a room divider, but I don't have time to find out who that is. I flick the darts, each one embedding itself in one man's neck. One guy manages to turn to me before he collapses to the floor. It's Alfie Lomond, while the others never even get to see their assailant. I'm going to enjoy killing Alfie later on for what he did to that shed guy. Maybe I'll make him shit himself first so that he can experience what it feels like. I wonder if I'll ever find out what the man in the shed did to be treated like that. But this isn't the time to ponder over such things. Ryker runs off while I take my other knife and prowl into the room, ready for whoever else may be waiting for me. The person behind the shelves must have realized what's happening. They're crouched low, hiding from me, as if that were possible. I sniff the air, and the scent of fearful sweat enters my nostrils. It's a woman, and she's scared. Not nearly as much as she should be. There's another scent, though, further away. Another woman. This one is older. Not a trace of fear from her. Interesting. I make sure none of the men are moving, and that there's nobody who I've overlooked in this part of the lab, then slowly prowl towards the shelves. It's a clever way to divide the room without adding walls. Maybe I should do that at home. Split the massive dining room into smaller, more cozy parts. Signs of being an adult, thinking of redecorating during the most inappropriate moments. I feel the woman move long before she even gets close to attacking me with a pin. A pin. Seriously? Don't they have scalpels in this lab? Even scissors would be better than this. Such an insult. I deflect her pathetic attack, then grab her wrist, twist it, and flip her around until she's secure in my grip. She squeals, but I stab her with a sleep dart before she can start doing something as disgusting as begging for mercy. I let her fall to the floor, not caring if she'll get some bruises. She's working in a pack lab. She can't be a very nice person. With her out of the way, there's only one person left in this lab. Unless there are others concealed behind more coalstone. She's standing at the very end of the room, next to a small closed door. Her white lab coat stretches around her large figure, ending just below her bum, exposing thighs that could double as tree trunks. Seems they don't make lab coats in her size. Turn around. Slowly. I snap, knowing exactly who this is. Gotcha, Grandma Doctor. Chapter 19. You found us then. The woman's voice is laced with poison, doesn't carry even a hint of surprise. When K8 didn't return, I assumed she'd failed in her mission. Pity. She was showing such promise. K8, Cat, my clone. She calls her by a number, and that makes me incredibly angry. She's treating a little girl not like a person, but as a lab experiment. I'm going to make her suffer for what she's done. But not until I've got my answers. Sit down, I command, motioning towards a chair with one of my knives. The woman cocks an eyebrow, obviously not used to being told what to do, but she eventually does as I say. I walk around her, my knife close to her neck the entire time. If she knows me, she'll know that I won't hesitate to strike. Keeping the blade there as a threat, I grab a pair of handcuffs from my backpack. They're some of my favorite tools. So versatile. Chaining someone to a chair is quite a boring use of them, but there's no time to play with her. Torture can come later, if she decides to resist. When I've got her hands secure, I wrap some rope around her legs for good measure. I don't want her walking off anytime soon. Now that she's safe to be left alone for a moment, I sheath my knife and walk over to the small door. Ryker is standing in front of it, one of his paws pressed against the steel. His eyes are so full of pain that I rip open the door as fast as I can. He runs inside, meowing loudly. I listen for a reply. Listen, and yes, a faint meow. Relief bubbles up deep in my stomach as the first is followed by 2 more weak meows. The kittens are here. Oi, come here, the woman shouts. I don't have time to sit here all day. I roll my eyes and return to her. You know you're tied to a chair. You're going to sit here for as long as I want you to. She glares at me. I'm amazed how there's still not a trace of fear in her eyes. She's either an expert at hiding it, or she's simply not scared at all. I drag another chair over and sit down opposite her. I'm sure that if Ryker needs my help, he'll call for me. He might already be cuddling his son. Who are you? I ask, leaning back in the chair. It's surprisingly comfortable, even though it looks flimsy. Haven't you figured that out yet? I sigh. How about some straight answers? You don't want to sit here for too long, neither do I. Just answer my questions, and we'll be done quicker. She raises an eyebrow. And then? Are you going to kill me? Potentially. The woman smiles. I thought so. I've raised you well. I gape at her, then snort. You've raised me? I don't think so. I've never seen you in my life. Her smile increases, but not in a good way. There's poison dripping from her eyes, exposing her twistedness. I need to be wary of her. She might be at my mercy physically, but I don't think she's weak nonetheless. Oh, you have seen me, my sweetie, but you won't remember. You were far too young for that. The tension inside of me is increasing, but I lazily stretch my arms and yawn. If I wanted a fairy tale, I wouldn't have come all this way. Tell me who you are and what you're doing here. Now, wouldn't that be nice of me? It would save you so much trouble. But no, I don't think so. You can't make me talk. Instantly, I'm on my feet with my knife touching the bottom of her chin. The lower one. She's got a big double chin. While most of her is bulk rather than fat, her face is puffy and lined with tiny red veins, like that of an alcoholic. Rest assured, I always manage to make people talk. I whisper into her ear. In the end, you will be telling me everything I want to know. It's your choice how much it's going to hurt. I don't think you're going to hurt me, she says, her smile still painted on her face. Not when you know who I am, do you? I sigh dramatically. I've been asking you who you are. Just tell me. Put that knife away, and I might. I slowly move the blade away from her chin, but not before making a small cut. She flinches, but immediately finds her composure again, looking at me as if nothing happened. I swirl the knife in my hand a couple of times, making it very obvious that I wouldn't mind cutting her again and again. When she still doesn't start talking, I sit back on my chair again and wait. I'm going to give her that one chance, simply to make it easier for both of us. You were supposed to grow up here, she says, her smile lessening a little. You were born in this very building, and it was always the plan to keep you here, train you, study you, turn you into who we wanted you to be. Instead, your mother decided to be a rebel. My mother? She brought me here. I'd hardly call that being a rebel. The woman laughs. That was her returning you when she noticed that she wasn't going to survive for much longer on her own. She'd been on the run with you for 4 years. That destroyed most of our plans for you, obviously, since we missed out on some of the most important years of your development. The experiment turned into a failure before it had properly begun. My mind is swirling. Experiment? My mother a rebel? What the fuck is this woman talking about? Nothing of it makes sense, and I'm becoming acutely aware that I'm wasting time. We're here for the kittens and to find out about my clone, not about me. Linux will be waiting somewhere upstairs, ready to set the building aflame. If we don't give the signal, he might come down to investigate. I should have brought those walkie-talkies. Next time. My bosses thought it would be enough to watch you grow, see how you developed even though we'd missed your childhood years. They didn't give me the funding I needed, not until they realized that you were too rebellious. You weren't of any use for our needs any longer, so we needed a replacement. Cat, I mutter. The clone. The woman laughs. Cat, you gave her your name? She gave herself that name. I snap, since you obviously didn't bother to give her one. Interesting, she mutters, looking around as if she wants to take notes. How did you manage to speak to her? The collar should prevent that, unless it malfunctioned. I glare at her. She's driving me crazy. If my rational mind wasn't screaming at me, I'd have slit her throat by now. It didn't malfunction. We took it off. For the first time, there's genuine surprise on her face. And she's still alive? My heart drops. What does that mean? Previous clones rarely survived for long without their collar. Previous clones? I interrupt her harshly. How many others were there? Without you, 7. 7? Then the penny drops. She watches me with a smile as I realize what she just said. She's enjoying this. That's why she's telling me. This isn't about me getting answers. It's about her torturing me. 7. I whisper. It can't be. I have a mother. I remember her, even though they are only fragmented memories. Was my mother... Was she the original? The woman grimaces. Yes, she was. One of our best non-college shifters. I thought she was loyal, but seeing you, her clone, must have messed up her head. She took you and ran off, taking one of my lab assistants with her. The fool. He might still be alive if he'd stayed. We had to make an example of him. My father. Not my father. Now I know why people sometimes faint when they get bad news. I feel lightheaded, dreamy, not quite in reality. It's too much to take in. Why? I snarl, pushing against my weakness. But the woman never gets the chance to reply. A loud meow makes me jump up. Ryker! I leave the woman cackling to herself and run into the other room. I never really looked at it earlier. I was too focused on what Grandma Doctor had to say. Now, I regret it. The room isn't as small as I thought. In fact, it's so long that it might be bigger than the lab. Shelves line the walls here at the front, stacked with glasses, vials, and boxes. There are things swimming in liquid that I prefer to ignore. I'm not queasy, but this is too close to home just now. My thoughts are all over the place, and let's not talk about my emotions. I'm a mess. I race through the room until the shelves turn into stacks of cages. Dozens of small cages, each of them smelling of cat piss. Not all of them are full, and the doors of the lower 2 rows are open. Ryker is surrounded by 6 kittens, all of them trying to cuddle him to death. Their squeaky meows tear at my heartstrings and let me forget about my own troubles for a moment. Ryker isn't looking at the kittens, though. His eyes are on a cage at the very top. Pumpkin. The little cat is pressed against the bars of his confinement, crying for his father. Ryker snarls at me to hurry, to reach up and get the cage since he can't reach it. You don't want to do that? The woman's voice makes me turn, even though I know that she's still tied to the chair and can't see what I'm doing right now. What an evil bitch. I will do whatever I want, I shout back. While the kittens seem to be unhurt, my clone has been mistreated in this place. I don't know what happened to the other clones, where they are, if they're still alive, but I doubt they had very happy lives either. I'm going to take her apart for that, limb by limb. But first, I need to give Pumpkin back to Ryker. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something flying towards me, but before I can react, it slams into me from behind, hitting the back of my neck. I sway, trying to find something to hold on to, but then cold metal touches my throat, and everything turns black. Burning. Something's burning. Smoke fills my lungs, and I cough, trying to get it out, trying to breathe fresh air. I open my eyes, blinking several times as the smoke makes me tear up. Something feels different. Bad. My mind is sluggish. What happened? Something about cats. Lots of cats. I groan and try to sit up. My body won't move. It's heavy. So heavy. Like it's not my body at all. There's no pain, yet it reminds me of my last shift, the one where I almost killed myself through blood loss. This isn't the same, but... Soft fur rubs against my arm. I turn my head, every inch a battle. Ryker's staring at me, his eyes filled with fear and worry. Slowly, my memories return. Pumpkin. The kittens. The woman. Pumpkin? I whisper. His anguished meow tells me all I need to know. He's not managed to free his son. Why is there fire? Lennox was supposed to wait until he got the signal. The smoke hurts my lungs and eyes, but I can't even lift my hands to rub away my tears. What happened to me? Ryker meows again, but I can't understand him. Not even his intention. No mental images. Nothing. All I can hear is a cat meowing. Yes, he sounds scared, but that's no surprise. What's going on? I ask hoarsely. What knocked me out? He takes a step closer and nudges my chest. No, not my chest, my throat. Icy fear floods me. With every ounce of strength I have, I manage to move one hand to my neck. Tears spring to my eyes, and this time, they have nothing to do with the smoke. They put a collar on me. Chapter 20. Ryker places his head on my chest, seemingly trying to comfort me, but there's nothing he can do to make me feel better. It's not the fact that I'm going to die that makes me want to scream. It's that I'm going to die a slave. I thought I'd found my freedom, created a new life for me. Now all that is gone, washed away like a dream, leaving nothing behind but the harsh reality. I'm a clone. I was always meant to be a slave. Those few months without a collar were just an illusion. It was foolish to think that I could escape the pack. Now, I'm about to die. I didn't imagine it like this. I was always hoping for a warrior's death, killed by another assassin's blades, going down in battle, adrenaline pumping in my veins, the thrill of the fight the last thing to feel. Meow. Oh, fuck. Pumpkin. I'm sorry. I rasp. I can't get up. Ryker nudges me, presses his head against my ribs, but I think he knows that it's of no use. The other kittens have gone. Ryker must have got them to safety. Hopefully, Griffin and Lennox are safe too, away from the burning building. You have to do it yourself, Ryker. I can't help you. I'm so sorry. I may be signing Pumpkin's death warrant, but there's nothing I can do. The collar has got me in its cold grip, sapping my strength, influencing my body and mind. I'm surprised I have any free will left at all. Maybe it takes a while to properly take effect. Not that it does me any good. I'll have to watch Pumpkin die before being killed by the flames myself. Or the collar, if it's faster than the fire. Ryker gets up and tries to climb the stack of cages once again, but there's nowhere for him to put his paws. They reach all the way to the ceiling, so he couldn't even jump to the very top either. The howl breaking from his chest breaks my heart. It's the despair of a parent unable to save their child. Shift! I shout at him, my voice getting weaker with every word. Think of how you need to be tall, how you need to be human to save your son. You can do it, Ryker. The collar is trying to subdue me, turn me unconscious, but I'm fighting it with everything I've got. Even though the pain is getting worse and worse, it's going to kill me. I know that. I learned that when the pack captured me shortly after Mystery Man had set me free. You can't put a collar on an adult shifter, even if they've worn one in the past. I don't know how long I have, but I doubt it's very long. Even if my body will stay alive for a few hours, my mind won't. Darkness is flickering at the edges of my vision. Ryker is shaking, stretching, trying to reach his son, but he's not shifting. The desperation in his movement is like ice running through my heart, making me freeze from the inside. I want to help him, but I'm useless. There's nothing I can do but watch. More and more smoke is gathering around us, and the crackling of flames is getting louder. Soon, we'll be trapped in a sea of flames. Maybe I should ask Ryker to bite through my jugular before he leaves, Burning alive must be one of the worst deaths imaginable. Unless the collar kills me first. Ryker howls in frustration. Think of your human side! My voice is regressing to a hoarse whisper. It could be the smoke or the collar. Either or, I'm screwed. We all are. I just hope the others get out alive. Think of what makes you human. What are the emotions that set you apart from the cats? What has always made you feel different? He turns and looks at me. Really, really looks at me. I wouldn't be surprised if he can see every single secret I hide at the bottom of my soul. Then, his face begins to twitch. His whiskers shiver, then retreat into his cheeks. His bones lengthen, his fur disappears, making way for smooth, dark skin. He starts to scream when his tail retracts. I avert my eyes, wanting to give him some privacy for some obscure reason. This might be the last time I ever see him. I should watch, share this moment, treasure it in the minutes I have left. But no, I listen to his screams with my eyes closed, hoping that it'll be over soon. I blink open my eyes and look at the man in front of me. He's so different from what I imagined Ryker would look like. In my mind, he had blonde dreadlocks, suntanned skin, and blue eyes. In reality, his skin is the color of my panther's fur. His hair is a dark gray, just like the patch of fur on his chest when he was a cat. And his eyes, they're still the same. Bright yellow. I'll never pass as a human with those, but I don't care. They're stunning. He is stunning. Gorgeous. Impressive. Since he's naked, I get the full view of toned muscle and lithe strength. All right, I'm going to commit that sight to memory. He was larger than an average cat before he shifted, and he's larger than an average human, too. His shoulders are broad, his arms strong. Let's not talk about his abs. They might make me faint even before the collar does. He looks at me for a second, then turns and reaches up to the cage containing Pumpkin. He doesn't even have to stretch this time. I smile as he cradles the tiny kitten in his arms, looking at it with pure love. I'm so glad they're going to get out alive. He seems to be trying to speak, but this is the first time he's human. He must be totally out of his depth. I hope it's just a temporary thing. Even with this strangled, hoarse sound, I can already tell that his voice has a beautiful depth. A rumbling sounds in the distance, and the floor starts to shake. Run! I whisper. Hurry! I want to say more, so much more, but suddenly, there's a rope around my vocal cords, pulling hard. I can no longer speak. I try to, but not a single word passes my lips. The collar is winning. It's too strong. All I can do is give Ryker one last smile. Time to say goodbye. Pumpkin meows and drums his paws against his father's chest. I wonder if they can understand each other. And does Pumpkin even know that Ryker is a shifter? So many questions that I'll never get the answer to. Dying sucks. My vision dims. It's starting. Death. I've never much wondered about the afterlife, but if there is one, I don't think I'll end up in the place where the good people are. And if I end up with bad people, I'll probably come across some that I killed. Will I be able to kill them again? You know, just because. My hearing is next to go. I still smell the smoke that's engulfing us, but I no longer hear the crackling of the flames, the groaning of the building. It's very quiet suddenly. I don't think I've ever experienced such silence. It's relaxing. I never realized how loud even my own breathing was. Now that all sounds are gone, I no longer feel that there's any point to fighting. I can no longer hear pumpkins meow. I can no longer see Ryker. I feel his arms around me just before I can no longer feel my body. Is he carrying me? I wouldn't know. The smoke hides his scent. I hope he's not taking me with them. I would slow them down, and there's no point to it, really. I'm mostly dead already. They'd never get me back home, where the collar key is, on time. What I really hope is that he's going to kill the woman, or let her burn to death. That's probably better. She deserves the pain of her flesh peeling off her body. I'm no longer going to feel it. My body is numb, just a piece of flesh that once housed me. Is this the time when images should flash before my eyes, showing me memories from my life? If so, it's not happening. Maybe my life wasn't nice enough for that. I don't really want to see any snapshots from the time I was living with the pack. Oblivion can have them. The only good times I had were those spent with Lennox, my wolf. When he left, he took a part of me with him. I should have been overjoyed when he returned. I should have accepted the feelings growing between us. Instead, I pushed him away, scared of commitment, scared of losing my independence, of losing the life I'd built. But what life was I even protecting? In the end, I was still doing the same that I did when I still worked for the pack. Killing, thieving, making money. The only difference was that I did it for myself. How long would it have stayed satisfying, though? I was so short-sighted. I put work first, ignored my heart. I guess I never learned how to act differently. Lennox, I hope he survives, and I hope his wolf will get over the loss of his mate. If I were given a second chance, I'd change things. I'd give it a go. Be with him, at least for a while. See if I'm able to be in a relationship. And if it doesn't work, I'd still have two other men who've somehow wriggled their way into my dying thoughts. Griffin, a siren with a conscience. I've been attracted to him ever since he first appeared in my bedroom. My hormones get in a knot every time I see him. I've been ignoring it, but right now, it's the time to reveal my cards. Lay it bare. Accept what I feel. If not now, when? And then there's Ryker, who's only been a man for mere minutes, yet the connection I've got with him transcends his humanity. I've found him interesting and charismatic, even when I thought he was just a cat. But ever since I found out that he's a shifter, I've seen him with different eyes, seen the potential in him. We're so similar, so well-suited. And now that I've seen his human body, well, it kind of underlines the point. He's made for me. Or me for him, since I'm the clone. I'd laugh if I still had control over my body. I think my sense of smell has gone now, too. No more smoke. Am I burning already? Would I know? Or maybe I'm dead already, and this is just an echo of consciousness. Maybe my mind is trapped in the collar forever. Yes, think cheery thoughts. That's it. Positivity and death. Maybe that will make it a better experience. I think I'm going crazy. Maybe I should concentrate on something specific to distract myself from dying. Meow. My friends. Bethany, Benjamin, Lily. I see them stand in front of our house, waving at me, like they're saying goodbye. No, that's not very positive. I move on, drawing on memories, but none of them is strong enough to keep my focus. I'm drifting, trapped inside my thoughts. That's enough to get anyone crazy, and I'm already slightly unhinged. Maybe I should come up with something new, something that hasn't happened yet, and wouldn't happen. Griffin, standing there with his shirt ripped open. Instead of turning away like I did in real life, this time, I pull him closer, take off my own shirt, kiss him. It's so real that I feel his lips on mine, his breath dancing on my skin. It's beautiful. You know, I've always been more of a dog person, he whispers, his fingers tangling my hair. I chuckle and slip a hand between his legs. I guess I will have to change your mind. If I had a body, I might blush at my own words. Instead, I watch myself on the floor with him, fucking him on the carpet. He holds my breasts as he moves in me and squeezes them with each thrust. It's making my chest hurt, and his lips are on mine again. But no, his head is nowhere near mine. So who's kissing me? Rip! Like a curtain being thrown to both sides, exposing the stage. Life enters me, and with it, light. I open my eyes. I'm surrounded by people. This must be hell, specifically designed for someone as antisocial as me. One person, one man, is closest to me, his hands hovering above my chest, just where I felt the pain. Did he try to revive me? It feels like he crushed a couple of my ribs in the process. I blink a couple of times and slowly, things lose their blurriness. Faces come into focus. Benjamin and Bethany are standing furthest away. Are they holding hands? Must be a trick of the light. Lily is to my right, with a very human Ryker next to her. When did Lily get back? She was supposed to be away for another couple of days. Ryker's gently rubbing Pumpkin's head, who's stretched out near my feet. He's half asleep, lazily opening his eyes to look at me. He smiles, then goes back to sleep. On my left is Lennox, his eyes leaking. Oh, Wolf, get a grip. And then there's Griffin, whose lips still seem to be touching mine, even though he's standing now, stretching his back. He's got bruises on his face, but they're already fading. I must have been out for a while, even though I didn't feel that way. My head is full of questions. How did we get out? How am I alive? Are all the bad people dead? But for now, I'm content to just look at the people around me. "You made it," Lily whispers. I smile at them all, rather happy to be alive. "You're probably wondering what happened to you," Griffin says, and I roll my eyes at him. Duh. "We can do the long version later, but just to give you some peace of mind, the kittens are fine, the pack building is completely destroyed, a couple of their people died, including that dreadful woman." I should feel happy about that, but instead, I'm annoyed. I had so many more questions for her. Now, I'll need to find other ways to find out what happened, who I am, what they did to me, where the other clones are, if they're still alive. I went in there to get answers, and instead, I'm left with so many more questions than before. "I'm sorry I had to start the fire before the signal," Lennox mutters, his eyes still wet. "They had me surrounded, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to fight my way out of there. Setting off the explosives was the only way to distract them enough to get the upper hand. Annoyingly, the fire had everyone swarming around, meaning it took me forever to make my way downstairs. It was worth it, though. I found some interesting things in that office, things that will help us in weakening the pack." I try to ask about the kittens, what they were used for, but my throat is too dry to even speak a single word. I point at Pumpkin instead, hoping that someone will understand what I want to ask. Lily notices my predicament and returns with a glass of water a moment later. She tries to hold it to my mouth, but that would be too much loss of pride. I snatch it out of her hand, spilling most of it on the duvet, and manage to take 2 sips before my hand loses its strength. Not quite how I wanted this to look. Pathetic. That color must have damaged my shifter healing somehow. Must have been unconscious for a while, judging from Lily being back and Griffin's faded bruises, so I should really be back to full strength by now. I hope this is only temporary. Turns out the kittens weren't stolen to get your attention, Griffin says, and I smile at him. Glad he's got the message. I found lab records, hundreds of pages of detailed observations on other kittens. They wanted to make the clones stronger by adding more cat genes. For that, they needed young cats, where the DNA isn't damaged by time. Of course, they only wanted the strongest kittens for that, so they had them do all sorts of tests: strength, intelligence, perseverance. Luckily, they hadn't processed our kittens yet, or we may not have found them alive. He sighs. We need more time to look through all the data I found, to see if they succeeded with combining cat with shifter DNA. For now, you rest, Lily says, interrupting Griffin's explanation. You almost died. Griffin may be the medical expert, but I'm prescribing you bed rest. Meow, I protest, unwilling to just lie here without doing anything. They stare at me. Meow, meow, meow. Cat? Lily says, her eyes wide. You're meowing. I clutch my hands to my throat, willing my voice to return to human. Meow. Oh, fuck. The end. This has been Scratch, Catnip Assassins, Book 2. Written by Skye McKinnon, narrated by Melody Muzljakovich, copyright 2019 by Skye McKinnon, production copyright by Skye McKinnon.